Most of the time as you're adding and editing the video and audio events on your timeline, you'll be working with your cursor in its default mode. This is called normal edit mode. That's what I'm working in right now. And it is activated by, look at the very top of the interface, this little eye symbol there. That is normal edit mode. And this is normally what you're going to be working in. However, there are sometimes challenges. It's not your only option, and as you select events on your timeline, you may want to switch back and forth between a couple of cursor modes. One of the challenges with this is if I want to grab several of the events on the timeline, in normal edit mode, if I try to do that, I drag across and I get a loop region. So my only option here for selecting things on the timeline is to maybe hold down my control key and click and click and click. There is another mode here for your selection tool or for your cursor, and that is this one right here. It is called Selection Edit Tool. And when I click on that, now my cursor becomes something a little bit different. And if I want to grab several events on the timeline, I can just swoop across them, just drag and lasso them. And now I can grab several events at once. And this is very nice if I'm going to be cutting and pasting between projects, or if I'm going to group, which I am indeed going to do right now. Now, grouping means to take a bunch of events or several events that I've selected on the timeline and to combine them or actually lock them together. They move as one. So I'm going to right-click on this group of selected events, and I'm going to select the option to group and create a new group. You can see there's a shortcut. I could just press the G key on my keyboard. And now if I try to move any one event, I'm going to unselect them and then reselect. If I try to move any one event, I get the entire group moving at once. So this is very nice if, for instance, I've edited a scene and I want to keep that scene together no matter what else happens on my timeline. Maybe I'm inserting video before it, or maybe I'm just moving it to another place on my timeline, or maybe I'm even cutting and pasting to a new project. This keeps it all together. It groups it all together. Now you have the option of breaking that group either one clip at a time or just dissolving the group completely. To select just one clip and break it out of the group, I'm going to select this clip here. In order to work with this clip separately, I want to make sure that up here in the upper part on my control panel at the top of the interface that I have the auto ripple turned off, by the way. Otherwise, sometimes you get some behavior you're not going to expect. So I've selected an individual event in my group, and you notice there's a blue highlight around the entire group, but there's sort of this yellow-green highlight around my selected clip. I'll right-click on that, and I'll say Group, Remove from Group, and it's only going to take that one clip out of there. You can see that one event, and now I can drag it out of there, and the rest stay in place. Notice what happened, though. I lost my audio track for that particular clip, and that's what happens when you ungroup, because you can break your audio and video separately, and if that's not your intention, you'll have to regroup them, or you have to break this one free and regroup it. Now I'm going to undo that, put this back into the group. All right, now it's all regrouped again. I can also just break up the entire group here by right-clicking and selecting the option Group, Clear, or Control-U. And now these are all individual events again. But again, what I've done is in the process of ungrouping, it ungroups everything. You can't have a group within a group. So when I ungrouped everything, you can see I also broke the connection here between audio and video. So if I want to regroup them, I'll need to hold down my control key and select the audio and video, right click, and then group it again, or press the G key, and now they'll move as one. A lot of times, though, you do want to break your audio and video because maybe you don't want the audio on your timeline. So if I were to say add this brief clip here to my timeline, and I'll just scroll across the timeline here a little bit. Suppose I only wanted the video portion of this clip. Let's go back to normal edit mode. I can right-click on it and select the option to ungroup or clear, and then select the audio and delete the audio. Now that's a lot of clicking. There is a shortcut for only bringing the audio or only bringing the video down to the timeline. And to do that, just delete that. If I right-click on this file and drag it down rather than left-click, so if I right-click on that, drag it down to my timeline, when I let go, I have the option of taking only the video portion. There we go. So if I only need the video portion of the clip, I'm using it as B-roll, I'm using it as a cutaway or something, and I don't need the audio portion of it, I can do that way with a single clip. Finally, when you're in normal edit mode, a lot of times you do want to grab a loop area. And again, you can set a loop area one of two ways, either by just clicking and dragging across your timeline or by manipulating these two little yellow flags at the top. And even if that blue area isn't highlighted, you still have a loop area here that you can resize, and you can turn it back on simply by clicking on that dark gray area. There you go, double-clicking on that. The advantages of a loop area, and of course you could just delete a loop area in case you wanted to hack a big piece out of your timeline. And I'm going to put that back in by Control-Zing. Most often what you're using a loop area for is either rendering or outputting. And if I go to the Render As screen here under File, you see that I always have the option, no matter what output I'm using, to render or to output only the loop area. So I've got a 2-hour movie, and I just want to put out a little 3-minute teaser. I can create a loop area and just output just that little 3 minutes there from the middle of the movie. Finally, notice that if I do create a loop area here and I delete it, it behaves differently if I have auto ripple turned on. So if I turned on auto ripple up there at the top of my screen, now when I delete it, I don't get a gap in my timeline, but the gap closes shut. That's how ripple works. When you insert or remove a section of the timeline, everything to the right of it shifts to either fill in the gap or expands to allow you to insert the clip. For most of your work, dragging one event to a new position or selecting a segment or a loop region on your timeline, your normal edit cursor mode will work just fine. But if you want to quickly select several individual event clips at once on your timeline, or you want to cut and paste to another position on your timeline or to another project, you may find that switching to the Selection Edit tool right up here makes the process just a little bit simpler.